Hello, I am Brad Scott, and this is my art. And I'm going to continue to work on my Tony Stark heads-up display picture, and I'm going to start working on the face. And I have not learned how to take the autofocus off yet for this particular camera, so hopefully it doesn't do that back and forth too much. If it does, then I will probably wind up deleting it if it's distracting. But I've got the outline of what I want to do, and I really like the way the heads-up display on the sides is coming out. I'm going to do that last, and I want to focus on the face. So I need to continue inking the face to make it what I want, but I want to tighten up some of the areas I want to work on so that I don't jack them up while I'm working on the ink. So I know for the mouth, that's going to be blacked out, and the eyeballs are going to be blacked out. The eyebrows are pretty much going to be blacked out, so I'm not worried about that too much. The light source for this particular one is coming straight at him, so it'll blend to shadow as you go away from the center of his face. So if that's the case, then that means the bridge of the nose is going to be the brightest thing out there, and that would make the ball of the nose as the main part that's the brightest. And I need to find a way to highlight the bridge of the nose. So if I'm assuming that the bridge comes down, it flares out a little bit and comes back down to give it a little character. Wow, I see that focus going in and out. Let me see if I can adjust it just a little bit so that it doesn't do it as much. Okay, I like that a little bit better. Okay, and then on the sides, there's going to have to be some shadow. So I know it's going to be shadow right there. But as we go into the nostril, there needs to be some type of shadow there as well. Something like that. And I didn't do this symmetrical, but that's okay. I think it'll work out okay. It's still doing that. Still doing the autofocus. I apologize. I will try to fix that before the next video. And then I'm going to have some shadow on the side of the nose to indicate that this is the brightest point. And then as you fade to the side, so as the end of the eyes sockets curve around, maybe throw some shadows out that way. And then between the head and the mask, this should be around this area here, should be some type of crosshatch. And then this is the mask itself. So I need to find a way to make this look metallic separate it from the skin, and then detail out the mustache. And this is part of the heads-up display, so you would see his Tony Stark triangle beard coming down this way. And if I want to make this look metallic, I need to maybe add in some harder shadows. No tangents. So let's play with that and see how that comes out. And start putting in some heavier line work as well. But first I'm going to start with throwing down some of these darker core shadows. I'm going to start with the mouth because that's probably the easiest thing to do. And I'm so afraid of messing this up. And I meant to live stream this part, so maybe I'm going to have to live stream the heads-up display, because obviously it's too late to go back and live stream this in the future if I've already done it in the past. Unless you live in a superhero world where you can always go back to the future. I can get Flash to take me back so you all can see me do this live and in person. Perhaps, maybe. Would that be crazy or what? If you saw it and then got to live it, even though you had already seen it, then you would think it's deja vu, but it would really be Boujade. That probably made no sense to most people. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm just rambling about nonsense, because normally I would have on some music, or I would have on a movie that I've seen 1,000 times so it doesn't distract me. But I can't do that, because then I would be violating copyright, as we talked about before. So this is one of those times we talked about last time when I use a solid line versus a broken sketch style line. And this is one of those times, because I know I'm going to put this in solid black. So I want a nice crisp line so that when I go fill it in, it's nice and easy. And I'll leave some of the broken lines in the middle, but for the most part, nice and clean, to make it easier to black it in. And this part here is called spotting the blacks. When you know you've got a piece or a section that's just going to be all black. And I used to not do a lot of dark blacks in my pictures. I was mainly concentrating on the contours. And beautiful contour drawings can look great. But when you add in some deep shadows, it really makes the picture pop. It really does. And there are some people that are just so awesome at using deep blacks that their work looks absolutely incredible. And I love that about them. I don't know if I'll get to that stage or if that's actually a stage that I'm trying to get to. One of the things I've noticed about style is that if you try to do a specific style, it just typically doesn't work out, it seems like. But if you just let your style naturally develop, it's much better than going after a certain style. Now, as you develop a technique, your style will probably change as you learn new things, develop new techniques, add more tools to your repertoire of things you do. You'll naturally grow as an artist. But that's the same in any career field, right? If you're a writer and you learn a new way to do a plot twist, you'll probably start doing it and it'll change the context of your stories. If you, as I was an engineer, as I learned new engineering tools and techniques, then my designs became different. And it's no different with the art. As I learned how to do more than just the basic contour drawings, my art changed and I started putting in more deeper core blacks. And honestly, I absolutely love it. I really think it makes a picture pop and it brings a organic look to it. I will admit that sometimes my contour drawings, although they were good, and they still are good, I should say, because I still do them a lot, they could be enhanced with some deeper core shadows or deeper blacks. So I'm going to look to incorporate those more and more. I'm learning how to put them into my artwork more and more, and I love them. And so for like the eyebrows, I know the inside's going to be a nice deep core black, but on the outside I still want to look kind of like hair, so I'll put in that core first and then I'll come back and finish the edges with more of a technical pen to give it the look that I desire. And the first part of this video was about an hour. And I'm anticipating this second part is probably going to be close to an hour as well, if not more, because it's a lot more finer detail work. I know so many artists that are so fast and they do beautiful work, and for a long time I tried to be fast when in reality it's not in my nature. And there's some things I can do fast and there's some things I can't. But if I try to be fast for no reason, then the art's just going to look a little bit empty. And when I'm doing concepts, new concepts, I'm a lot faster, actually. Not a little bit, I'm a lot faster. But when I'm actually doing like a fan art piece like this, where there's a certain look that I have to achieve, then it could be a little bit different. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and deep core shadow this one as well, even though it doesn't need to be. I originally was going to hatch it, but I want there to be some, the nose is going to be obvious, so just add a little punch to it like that. When I went back and I saw that the nostrils were a little bit different, that's something I should have caught in the pencil stage prior to doing that first inking. But I think it's still going to come out nice. So now I'm putting in some of the heavy lines that I think will exist, or that I want to emphasize. And this is where I was talking about different line weights. Kind of draw the figure out a little bit. I'd also like to continue the conversation about the movie project, because I keep bringing it up and then I get distracted and I start talking about other stuff. So I'm going to try to stay on task this time and provide a little bit more information. I think in the first video I was talking about the breach team. And the role that they would play in the warrant squad. So the breach team has the duty to access buildings and rooms that are barricaded. And on the breach team, there are different members that perform different functions. One of the things that I really need to do over the next couple of weeks is start giving a lot of these characters names, which I have not done yet. Nobody has a name. On the breach team. And since those characters are done, I would really like to get them some identity. For example, in my graphic novel, I have a sniper that goes by Ghost. I have another character that goes by Tank, Jaguar, and Apis. So to separate Tony from the mask, I'm going to have to go a little bit larger on the mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1, but I'm going to probably wind up breaking that up a little bit. I don't know. That adds a little dimensionality to it. So on the breach team, as I was saying, different people perform different functions. And I haven't named them yet, although I know what the functions are that they perform as part of the team. So one of the guys, the big guy, and if you go to my Instagram, you can see the concept silhouettes of the breach team, as well as the initial concept drawings for the breach team. As of the time of this video, the drawings are not full illustrations. They're just concepted out with a little bit of color to kind of see if the color palette's going to work. But they will become full illustrations over the next couple weeks. And I'm really looking forward to doing that as well. That's a really fun part that I really look forward to doing, is creating that almost like marketing art for the breach team. Why I picked them as the first team to highlight, I don't know. But now that I have, I'm really enjoying putting them together. And the first guy is the heavy guy. So people have battering ram, or part of a breach. Crap, I just messed that up. I just messed that one up. So what I'm going to do is just come down a little bit further and encapsulate that. And now it's like I never messed up. If you ever see any of the movies for cops or arrest teams, you'll see the guys that usually come in with the battering ram. And so one of the breachers on the warrant squad is he's the guy with the battering rams. Except in this case, instead of having a big chunk of metal that they carry around, the battering rams are actually strapped around his wrist, and they are hydraulically operated. Well, maybe not hydraulically, electromagnetically or something, but they're mechanically operated, and he's big enough to control the punch, and he busts through doors, and he has a wide variety of sledgehammers, of other different tools he can use to quickly and efficiently break down a heavy barrier. The other person on there is the dynamite guy. If something needs to be blown in order to gain access. And he has C4, he's got dead cord, he's got grenades, flash bombs. For the hair, I'm going to start with the goatee and see how it comes out before I hit the mustache or the beard. If I like the goatee, then I'll use that same technique. Something like this, where you're this close up on the face, probably going to take, rarely would you ever want to draw individual pieces of hair, but in a case like this you almost have to, because you're so close. That you've got to give it some structure. And I think it's starting to look pretty good. This reminds me a little bit of when I did my sketch of Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, and working on his mustache and goatee. Oh my God. But it came out absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna jump up and work on these eyebrows a little bit. I like seeing the drawing come together in different stages. And I could have just stayed up here and finished the whole eye, but honestly, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see kind of like different parts develop and come together. It also helps me in determining where something may be off course, and then if I need to fix it, I can do it before I get too far along. Like if I really jacked up one of the eyes, would it make sense to stop and fix it or trash it? And I always try to fix, because I don't like doing things over. And one day I may just keep a stack of drawings that wind up in, actually, I usually keep them to the side, the drawings that I don't think are going to work, for disposal into the trash. And then on the weekend, when I don't have a lot to work on and it's kind of slow, I'll pull them out and see if I can fix them before I trash them. And then once I determine it's a lost cause, well then, to the trash it goes. The other part that's a little bit difficult for me sometimes is when I'm doing hair like this, making sure I keep the hairs random and they don't all follow the same pattern. They crisscross a little bit. Because I'll notice that I have a certain way of drawing a long wiggly line. I draw it the same way almost every time. If someone said draw a long wiggly line, I would draw a long wiggly line and it would match up the same across the board for a bunch of other long wiggly lines I've drawn in the past. And I don't want to do that because that's not the way hair is. So I have to intentionally make sure I'm varying line directions and the way the hair comes down and falls over the lip, and etc., etc. But I definitely like the way it's coming together. I think I messed up on this side a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll just create some hair there and it'll blend right in. This is one of those times where it would really suck to mess up the drawing now. I'm so deep into it. But the good part is I'm deep enough into it to know that it would be really hard to mess it up as well. I would have to really try something that's so far out there that in a big black bold mark that would be hard to cover up. In a piece like this, if I wanted to throw something in the shadow, I could, and I could probably get away with it. Because I could probably make it look like it's supposed to be in shadow, as opposed to like when people maybe perhaps draw feet or hands really well, and so almost every angle of their drawings, they don't show hands and feet. And then it just becomes obvious, like, this person never draws hands and feet. Hands and feet are always around a rock or under a shirt or something. Okay, I'm liking the way this is coming out. Looks Tony Starkish. I could... Now the goatee down here is going to be a series of short ones. And the heads-up display is over it. So that adds a different dynamic to it as well. A good dynamic. But this may be one of those places where I'll put in some highlights or blacks, because it's going to be at the bottom where this part of the display is glowing really bright because of all the stuff that's in this part of the display. So I might be able to get away with some stuff there. And I'm going to say this is the bottom part of the mask, or at least that down at this part you can't see the chin. I'm just going to make that the rule for this drawing. I'll give a little indication that it continues down. And I'm liking that. I think that is looking Tony Starkish. Let me get rid of some of these pencil lines that I put in here to kind of guide my work. Yes, I'm liking the way that's coming out. I'm liking that a lot. That is it's coming out just the way I like it. I think that's very Tony Starkish. Now up in here I want to crosshatch that, but I don't want it to be overwhelmingly ugly. For the most part. So let's see. And if I need to, I wonder if I just went gray, but I don't want to. Oh, actually this one, that may be an area where I want to use the gray marker. But I'm going to start with the crosshatch. And this is one of those times where I wish I hadn't done that ink line there, because I think it would have looked better without it. So I may take the white marker and take some of that part of it out to break it up a little bit. Because then I could have worked the crosshatch from heavy to light, and it could have been a natural gradient without that line. But I did it. It's done. I can change directions a little bit, and it won't be very noticeable. I actually love cross-hatching. I think it's a great way to show gradient of light, to show texture. Sometimes I get a little carried away with it, but I love it. I think that is looking just the way I want it to. I'm definitely going to need to blend some shadow. So this line may be okay. It's actually disappearing on its own already. In some areas you really can't tell. Get rid of my pencil notes there. I'm actually getting this part done quicker than I thought I was. It's kind of flowing really smoothly. I like that. Thinking about maybe putting some vein in his eyes. Definitely know I want to, on the lips, I want to add some texture to the lips. And probably a little bit more. So again, we're so close, it's kind of hard not to acknowledge the parts that you would actually see if you were that close up. Also didn't mean to put that line in there like that, but I did. It was a guideline for pencil, but it was not supposed to be inked. So, but it works the way it came out. It works actually very well. And to emphasize that bottom lip a little bit more, I'm going to put a little more shadow underneath it. To show that turn down of the bottom lip. Going into the chin. Add a little coarse shadow on there like that, which I think works for that piece. I know I'm going to have to come up with some type of shadowing scheme up in there. So let me see if I can just keep it large and light. Oh yeah, I think that's good. I think that is very good. I know I'm gonna have to put some more details in the eye and on the lips and nose, but I'm not quite sure what that's gonna be yet, so I'm not gonna worry about that right now. That's part of that final tidying up of the drawing. That's done right before I go ahead and close it out. But I think that face is inked in a fashion where I can say, yes, that's Tony Stark underneath that mask. And I like the way it came out. What I will probably also do is add in, just to break this up a little bit, add in a little and the problem with this is these hash marks are a lot darker than the Prismacolor black, so they're going to stand out. But as I work the drawing, I will be able to blend them in a little bit more probably. And on camera, it shows very well. And when I scan it in to make the digital copy, it's not even gonna register at all. On the original piece, you'll be able to see those marks, but that's what adds to the, in my opinion, that's what adds to getting an original piece, is seeing those deviations and those brush marks. I think it really adds to the authenticity of original art. All right, I think I'm gonna call the ball. On the face for now, until I get to the final stages, like I said, where I really detail out some of the areas, like maybe put some veins in the eyes, maybe add some more shadowing around the bridge of the eyes and nose, and maybe in the septum, you know, give it a little more dimensionality underneath the nose or something. But I like the way this is going so far. I think it's a very good view of Tony Stark under the mask. So let's call the ball with that. And in the next video, which I'm going to live stream, I'm going to remember to live stream it, where I work the heads-up display. I'll be recording it and putting it on YouTube as well, but I want to live stream that one so that I can take questions and we can have chats about different things that are going on. So I'm Brad Scott. This is my art. See you next time. Peace.